Off script, with Jab on the mic. Every story, every stumble, every late night rewrite. Pull back the curtain, hear the real talk. Off script with Jarvis, Jab, let the conversation start.
Patch, what's up, bro?
What's up, dude? How's everything going?
Man, I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah,
Where are you at in
doing
the world
really
right
good.
now?
Right now I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. I just finished up a little Vegas residency and then stopped by Phoenix, yeah, to pick up my daughter and wife, and then heading back to LA.
Both great things to pick up, and you need
Yeah,
those.
yeah, those are important assets.
Yes, sir. Aren't you from Arizona?
Yeah, I am. I grew up here. Uh-huh. Yeah,
Born and
lived here
raised?
for like born in LA, lived in LA until I was like 6 and then moved to Phoenix. So Phoenix is like the hometown. I
Yeah,
lived
yeah,
there
yeah.
for like 20 years. Yeah.
And then your family is still there.
Yeah, yeah, both sides. My family is still in Phoenix and then my wife's family is still in Phoenix too. So it's always nice to come visit, get the help with the baby.
Yes, sir. Congrats on your newborn, man. I was so pumped for you.
Thanks, dude. Yeah,
How's
insane. So
fatherhood?
crazy. Dude, it's legitimately the best thing ever. Like, my favorite
Really?
thing. Yeah, it's the best thing
I,
ever. Like, it's just so great. I can't say, like, enough good things about it. I love it. I love being a dad.
that's so dope. It's like all my homies who end up having kids that everybody's so pro, like anti kids at first, and then they have one and they're like, dude, I should have done this.
Yeah, it's like, I never wanna leave home again. Like, I just wanna be
Yes.
home forever.
Yeah. How are you balancing that right now? Because I know you're on the move with an incredible artist right now. Um, but are you balancing the work-life balance of newborn, wife, and being an incredible
Dude.
musician?
Um, well, thanks, man. I
Of
am
course.
like it's always I feel like an ever changing thing, trying to like balance it all, but I just feel like I've been fortunate and like since my daughter was born, for a bit it was just everything was just kind of working out like where I wouldn't be gone for like too long of a time where it was just like, oh my gosh, like like this is too much or anything. Like everything really worked out where it was like I would just have little chunks kind of here and there spread out over, like the year she was born in at the end of 2024.
Right, yeah.
And so, which is like insane, but
Nuts.
everything was just like, it just worked out and like fell into place where I wouldn't be gone for too long. So like,
Yeah,
um, yeah, it just kind of like worked itself out and we
for
were
sure.
like really thankful for that. And so still kind of same deal now. It's like everything is with like the current schedule is spread out really nicely where I'm not like out and about for too big of a chunk of time.
Yeah,
So I can still like be home and be husband and dad and still do all of the things I need to do.
yeah, dude, I always commend all the guys and girls on the road they have significant others and kids, and you all amaze me so much by just making it happen, but I'm learning that you all are intentional about making it happen. The calls home, like, what do you do when you are on the road? Because you still have to be the husband and father. Like, that doesn't go away.
Yeah.
But what do you do to make sure that relationship stays strong? And, you never want your wife to feel the absence of you, even though you are not
Mhm.
physically there.
Yeah, I'm super thank God for, like, FaceTime, honestly,
Yeah.
I'm, like, really adamant about, like I feel like when I'm on the road, every day, I feel like there's at least, like honestly, at least, like, 4 FaceTimes a day where it's kind of just, like, the morning check-in, a lot of the time, like, um, time zones will be, like, super funky, like, if I'm, like, overseas or something, but, like, either way, I always am like there for like morning wake up, and then kind of like early
Yes.
afternoon and then late afternoon and like right before bed. So I'm like yeah, I think intentional is a good way to put it, where like I
Yeah.
really try to just FaceTime as much as I can.
Love
Um,
that.
yeah, I think that is just like the biggest tool to still like be as present as possible during those times when I'm out of town. And then yeah, same for the kiddo too. Just like basically when I FaceTime mom,
Yeah.
I'm also like, yeah, FaceTiming the kiddo also. And so same deal, just try to do it as much as I can. And like, um, yeah, I love it. It's just like I feel like part of my like touring schedule or whatever, is just like,
Yes.
yeah, always having time for calls like that where, um, I can talk about just regular family home stuff,
Yeah.
and not have
Yeah.
to really talk about like, oh, when is sound check?
Yep.
When is catering? Like, it's just like I can actually just be like, yeah,
Yeah.
like,
That's so dope, man. I've noticed that people are definitely making it a part of their schedule. Like they're like, all right, I wake up at this time. I know, I have to go to work or whatever the situation is. They just understand, okay, I got to call here, I got to call here. And luckily we don't have too crazy of schedules. Once we're out, it's not too bad.
yeah, it's very, yeah. When people complain about it, it's like, is it really that bad not having anything to do until like 4:30, and then you get to like
Right.
go eat and then go play and then you're done? Like,
And then you're
it's not
done.
that
Like
bad.
it's not. It's like literally your lobby calls at like 2. You
Yeah,
get to the venue like 3. You walk to catering. Okay, we'll sound check at 4. And then
right.
you're done until 9 o'clock if you're on the headlining gig. Like, relax.
Yes, it's really, yeah, it's pretty cush.
For sure.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so dope. So for people who don't know you, man, where are you from? Give us a little bit of background about, who you are and if you want to update us on what you're doing right now. Well, obviously you live
Yeah,
there.
totally. Yeah. Yeah, I'm Patch. Originally from Los Angeles. I lived in LA, in the Valley until I was like about 6, and
Yeah.
then moved out to Phoenix, Arizona. And then that was in like 2000. So yeah, I still tell everyone like Phoenix is like the hometown just because I was still pretty young, and I lived in Phoenix until 2021, and then moved back out to Los Angeles, and then have been in LA ever since. And yeah, have just been drumming like pretty much since I was like maybe 4 or 5. My
Yeah.
parents are both musicians, and so that kind of like, when I was like, yeah, I think again 4 or 5 or so, they got me like a little drum kit, um,
Yeah.
that I still
What's
have today, like, which
what do
is,
your parents play? Or
my
do? Yeah.
dad, yeah, my dad, he plays drums, like
Okay.
everything, guitar, keys, like amazing vocalist too.
Yeah.
And then my mom, I think like she played piano as a kid, and then I think in school played like oboe, which is like very
So random.
random. She definitely like does not use the oboe anymore. I don't think she gets
Of
called
course
for that
not.
too much, but
Yeah.
and she's a bass player. And so, yeah,
Sick.
her and my dad, like, still play around town in, like, the Phoenix area, and they, like, gig, like, legitimately some of, like, the busiest gigging musicians, like, in their local scene, which is it's so funny. But, yeah, so, like, I kinda grew up around, like, that environment, and, like, they used to own a couple of music shops out in the Phoenix area too, and yeah, so that was kind of the upbringing, was just like music was always there. And yeah, I don't know how in depth you want me to get with it, but basically
I'm here to
like
talk to you as in depth as
okay,
you
sick,
want,
sick.
please. Yeah.
But yeah, like music was always in the background. I was always like drumming as kind of just like a hobby. I never really I never took it very serious. Like I would go months without touching my kit, like any kid.
Sure,
I
sure,
was
sure.
just kind
Yeah.
of like I did sports, and like I was like super heavy into like board sports and stuff like that
Oh,
growing up,
sick.
and that was kind of like where I saw my life going. Was like I want to be like a professional like wakeboarder or whatever, like that. It's
That's
so
so
random,
cool.
but it was really fun, dude. So that was kind of, I feel like there was always like a big intersection of like music and action sports, just because
Yeah.
if like I don't know, yeah, if you've ever been into like skating or anything like that, there's all,
Yeah.
or like surfing, like there's just been like a really big kind of like marriage of music and action sports. And so music was always like around for me during that time of my life when I was a kid. And then like I like high school, I had some buddies that I would play with and stuff, and I'd be like drumming in a couple of bands and things like that, and then went off to college down at University of Arizona, and I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
for sure.
still, like I was drumming for fun at the time, nothing serious at all. And then like kind of halfway through college, I was studying. I was I was like in the pre-med degree,
Right,
like
yeah.
so on that path to like be like a doctor, which is just like the goofiest thing looking back on for me.
Really?
But
That's so rewarding, though.
yeah, like, it was cool, it was cool,
Yeah,
I enjoyed it, but I was just, like the thought of doing it for a job, I was like, "Oh, like, I really do not like this," and, I
sure.
remember I was like all I really had at the time was just, like, guitar because that was something I could play, like, in a dorm, and then, yeah, kinda halfway through, I remember, like, seeing I'll wrap this up too, but
No, please don't. It's so intriguing to me.
I remember I was like I think I was on, like, Sweetwater.com or whatever, and I've been, like, on a Ludwig kit forever, like, that was, like, the first kit that I kinda, like, chose for myself was, like, a Ludwig kit back in, so maybe I was, like, 8 or something after, like, the first little mini kit that I had,
Yeah.
but I saw, like, just, like, a one up, one down Ludwig
Yes,
kit
sir.
on online, and I was just like, "Whoa," like, that's, like, really I just loved it. I was like, "This is so cool," and that, like, kinda really sparked like, a love for drums on, like, another level than I had, like,
Yes.
experienced, which I know is, like I don't know, that might be goofy, that, like, a piece of gear did that, but, like,
No, it's not
I
at all.
yeah, like, I saw it and was like, "Wow, this is so sick." Like,
Yep.
maybe I should, maybe I should kinda take a look at drums again, and so, like, kinda slow very slowly, I think at that time I was, like, maybe 19, I started, like, really getting, like, extremely obsessed with drums, and that was when I kinda really up until that point, hadn't worked on, like, any rudiments, any technique whatsoever, like,
Wow.
and so I kinda feel like, not necessarily a late bloomer in that sense, but kinda like I really dove in, when I was about 19, and then I finished college, I graduated, moved back up to Phoenix, started, like, just, like, putting in the 8-hour practice days kinda thing, like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
um, and then yeah, was playing in church and stuff like that when I moved back up to Phoenix and, was on that grind pretty much up until 2021. Like, I started doing some touring, out of Phoenix still with, like there was, like, a Nashville couple Nashville artists that I was working with, and then, yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, and then that nothing like crazy, but just some touring, and then in 2021, like, I kinda knew in the back of my mind that I eventually, like, needed to get out to Los Angeles. At first,
Sure.
I was like, "LA or Nashville, what's the move?" But I was just like I really enjoyed, kinda like the pop side of stuff and, like, more, yeah,
Was that the
that.
deciding factor of, like, where?
I think
Okay.
so, like, just mainly because I know Nashville, I mean, I know there's everything in Nashville, obviously, but, like, I feel like LA is very, as I'm sure you know too, like, really heavy in the pop scene and, like,
Yes.
hip hop and, like,
It's a lot of
just
mainstream is just in
yeah,
LA. Yeah.
exactly, and so my wife, I'll give her credit for this every time. Like, she really was kind of like the driving force that was just like, "We should move, like, let's move." And I was just like, "All right, yeah, let's do it." So really, I give her all the credit for that. Um, like, definitely pushed us to get out to LA, and so we were gonna
It's
move in
amazing.
2020, and then COVID hit, and we were just like,
Right?
"Maybe now is not the best time." And so
Smart choice.
2021, moved out to LA, and that yeah, since then, just started, like, trying to play as much as I could and practice as much as I could, and then, yeah, started getting a little traction with some gigs and stuff like that, and then eventually um, yeah, just played with some different artists and was touring and doing that whole
Yeah.
thing, and then, yeah, got up to where I'm at now. which is still same deal, doing session stuff and touring stuff.
Yeah, bro, your pathway is so refreshing to me. You know, even the part of I think people underestimate the power of your ecosystem and having people actually believe in you and support what you're actually trying to do, excuse
Mhm.
me. But
Yeah,
having your wife being like, "Hey, babe, I think now is the time. Like, we need to you got a dream, you got a vision. I think it's okay for us to really do this. Let's get out there." That's phenomenal, man. That's really dope. And then now you moved to LA. I want to talk about your transition from Phoenix to LA because a lot of people who are going to be listening to this are thinking about moving to certain places and why they want to move and how to navigate that. Like, can you go more into depth about what your process was? Because I'm assuming you didn't just come here and then magically you were on a tour. You know,
yeah.
there was some legwork you had to do to be known and trusted, I assume.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. I think for me, I guess, yeah, I'll start by saying, like, I really feel as though and I know this is not the case for most people, or not most, but for some people, but, for me, I kinda make the joke of, like, my, like, drumming career, it didn't start until I, like, moved out to Los Angeles.
Yes.
Everything before that, I look back and I'm just like, "Oh, wow," like, you kinda think, like, "Oh, I'm gaining some traction and stuff," but in reality, it's just like I think, location is, like, such an enormous part of at least, like, planting roots, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Depending on what you wanna do, right? But for me, it was just, like, a really huge part of kind of, like, actually making, kind of a crazy dream, right? Being, like, a full-time musician, like, making that a reality, like so when I was still in Phoenix, again, I was, like, doing church stuff, which was great, you know, like, amazing foundational stuff as far as, like, if you're looking at, like, playing wise and just the concept of, like, um yeah, playing, like, with a band, right? And not
Sure.
just, like, in your bedroom sort of thing, which is great too, that has benefits too, but
Absolutely.
yeah, and so, like, when I was in Phoenix, um, again, like, in the back of my mind, I was like, I always knew I needed to end up somewhere else in order to yeah, in order to kinda throw some, like, gas on the fire.
Yeah.
And so but when I was still in Phoenix, for whatever reason, the timing just didn't really feel right to make a move, and, I remember that's kinda when I started. I was just like, "Well, like, what can I do while still living not in LA or Nashville or New York or Atlanta or wherever," you know? Um, but, like, what can I do while I'm still in Phoenix that can benefit me once I do make it out to a place, you know, a different city where it's kinda happening a little bit more, and I guess, like, path that I took was kind of like, well, social media is kinda starting to become like a pretty large part of, like, what a musician kinda has to offer in a sense, you know? And I
Yeah.
was just kinda like, if I'm doing you know, if I'm practicing and again, like, at that time when I was still in Phoenix, I was, really just starting to, like, dive into progressing as a player and not just like, "Oh, I can hold down a song," or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
I was
yeah, yeah.
actually,
Yeah. Yep.
trying to push the progress, in, like, as big a way as I could, and so I was kind of just like, "Well, um, I guess, like, I can just kinda film it," you know,
Yeah.
and put stuff up, just if anything, just like it's funny, like, looking back, it's pretty interesting to just see it as kind of like just documentation of, like, my progress, you know?
Yeah.
At the time, you're just like, "Whoa, like, I'm gonna post this is gonna be so sick," but in the reality, you know, I feel like everyone's like that. You look
Yeah.
back and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, that's the worst thing
You're
I've ever seen,"
devastated.
like,
Yeah.
what yeah, it's just like, "Oh my gosh, people, like, actually saw this. This is the worst thing ever."
Right?
Um but, like, that's kinda like
It's so
the
true.
it's just crazy. It's yeah,
So true.
very cringeworthy, but, I think all
Yep.
for good reason, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I that's kinda what I focused on is I was just like, "I'm gonna try and just build up," like, everyone says it, but I think for good reason, like, the resume, right? It's kind of like the
Yeah, yeah,
modern resume, at least a good addition to a resume, right? A spot where people can kind of see you're playing, and
yeah,
um, yeah, so that's what I really focused on a lot in Phoenix. And then yeah, and then my wife, yeah, was just like, let's make this move. If you're actually gonna do this insane thing, like, um, a lot of people were kind of telling me like, oh, you don't really have to move nowadays. Like, you can do it from anywhere because of social
yeah,
media or because of, like
yeah, yeah,
whatever. And I I understand that concept, but I still really don't. I think nothing beats the in-person, um, like, hang, for lack of a better
yes.
term, and so to kinda I know this is, again, longest answer ever, so
No, it's so good though. It's so good.
but I that was kind of the game plan, like, in getting to Los Angeles, I was like, "Okay, um, like, what can I do in order to make connections to start getting gigs?"
Yeah,
Which I think everyone kinda wants, right, when they first get somewhere, and, um, I know there's so many different suggestions, like, "Oh, you should go to shows, and you should go to the local spots, and tell people that
yeah,
you'll fill in if you need them," and which is that I think I'm sure there's a lot of value in that too, but my personal route that I kinda took was, like, I think I was just fortunate to get connected with some different musical directors, which was like, I mean, as I'm sure you know, is that's kinda like I don't know,
it's
I
the
feel like
answer.
that's kinda the answer. It's
It's
because
the
in
answer.
reality, it's like, and like people, I don't know, there's like some, yeah, I don't know.
Yep.
It's such an important thing, right? Just as important as like connecting with like peers and stuff, like other musicians. The reality of it is like, if you go and meet up with other drummers, right? If you're a drummer, that's great. It's like that's a really cool thing, and it's great to have like that community. But really, another drummer isn't necessarily going to hire you for a gig because they're the ones that are also trying to
Yeah.
work. Yeah, which is
Yep.
extremely understandable, right? It's like that's a very normal thing. But yeah,
Absolutely.
that was kind of the path I took, was just like I just want to be able to, one, like, yeah, connect with other musicians and stuff to kind of build like some sort of community where you can have friends. Otherwise, it's kind of, I mean, LA is like, it's like a small circle, but it's also like it can be super lonely,
Yeah.
just from my experience. Like, um, yeah, so it's good to like have friends that are also doing what you're doing, just so there's kind of that connection and camaraderie, like going through the same stuff. But
Sure.
yeah, I think musical directors at the end of the day are the ones that, for the most part, are doing the hiring. Um, so yeah, that was kind of my approach.
No, that's so dope, man. So how did you go about finding these people? Because at least I'll speak for myself. When I first got to LA, luckily my friends were, already in the industry and doing incredible things. So they were able to help navigate that. However, my thoughts before I got here were not what the reality was. It was a lot of kind of what you initially said of let's go to jams and meet other musicians and let me get tight with all the other drummers. And I remember one of my really, really good friends was like, "What the are you doing this for?" Not that it's not beneficial to have friends and have people that you can
Of
talk to
course.
and, share ideas with, and that's all very valuable, but they're not hiring you. They're the ones that are not gonna be calling your phone. So, how did you figure out, 1, who these people are, and then even just understanding that concept? Did you go through trials of the normal go to jams and that kinda stuff, and you're like, "This isn't working," or, what did you do?
Yeah. That is a very, like, it's so true. I definitely was just like, "Oh, I gotta hit these jams,"
Yeah,
like, you gotta hit the jam, but, like you said, it's just kinda like those people are everyone's kinda going to those jams as just, like, players, which
right.
is, again, like, it's great, super fun, you meet really cool people, and you see really awesome players, like, play live, which is, like, super inspiring, and it's great. But, yeah, I think I I had a buddy that, also made it out to I think he had moved out to Los Angeles from Phoenix, maybe like 2 years or 3 years or so before I did, who, um, we had met, I think, one time in Phoenix before he made the move, and then so basically, like, when I finally made it out to LA, um, he was, like, the one person where I was just like, "Well, I know this guy lives here now, and I don't know him very well at that time," and,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I moved out and then to LA, and then I was just like, "Well, I'm gonna hit this guy up,"
Yeah, for
because
sure.
he's already easier doing it, and so he kinda gave me some direction, with that, where he was just like, "Hey, this is a really good route to maybe take for your career, is to try and invest some time into meeting some of these musical directors," and I was like, that kinda was like, I had known about the concept of like an MD, right? Like
Yeah.
before moving out to LA, but maybe a similar thing to what you were saying, where it's like you think it's one thing, and then the reality of it is just like, oh no, it's really not what you think it is. It's
It's
like,
not, yeah.
and so then yeah, I started just like reaching out to like some names that I had heard of, where I was just like, oh well, I think this guy's a musical director. I've heard of this guy before. Like, let
Yeah.
me reach out to them, and see if they're not busy, which is like, looking back, is such a funny concept, where it's just like a lot of musical directors or whoever, like, they'll have kids too, they'll
Yes.
have families, and they're just like, the last thing I want to do is meet up with some random kid that just hit me, which I
Yeah.
honestly, looking back, I'm extremely thankful that some of them took my call, kinda thing, and
Yeah.
they
Yep.
actually did take that time, because, like, it's not it's not an easy thing to do, to just be like, "Yeah, I'll go hang out with this random person that I've never met, and I have no idea if they're cool or what they're
Yep.
like," and, like, and so it's really kind that they took the time to do that, and I'm, like,
Yeah.
I'll forever be, like, super grateful, for that. But, yeah, that was kinda and then what I'll tell some people too is, like, a lot of the time, and this is where it's really helpful to know other musicians, is you'll see them, like, someone that's, a friend of yours or whatever, that's, like, on a gig, they do the classic, like, end of tour post where they're like, "Thank you to the team, thank you for the best band,"
Yep.
like, all that stuff, and they'll literally, in front of your face, they will tag every single person that made
Yep.
that tour a reality. So it's just like, I think that's a great resource for people to just be like, "Oh, well, I literally can see right there," with a
Yes.
link to their account,
Yeah.
who the musical
Yes.
director was, who
Yep.
the you know what I mean? Like, who all the other musicians were, and
Yep.
all that stuff, and I just think that's a great route to go, to just be like, "Oh, well, now I know another musical director that maybe you didn't know before, just by following, like, another musician," you know?
Yes.
So that was kinda how I started out, and then I think, as I'm sure same for you, it's just like, once you kinda start playing, then, um, hopefully, in an ideal case, they start passing your name around too. If someone asks them,
Right.
like, "Oh, do you have any recommendations for a drummer or guitar player or whatever?" Then your name starts getting passed out, and then sometimes you get a call from someone that you haven't met, and they just yeah, and they need a drummer, you know?
Yep. Yep. It's like, got your number from such and such,
Yeah,
would you be down to do this? First of all,
totally.
thanks for the recommendation, but
Yeah, like,
absolutely.
amazing. Totally,
Yeah, it's so
totally.
sick, man. I never really considered, I guess I always did it, but I never considered the actual concept of looking through the credits of that and then knowing how to.
Right.
That's
Yeah, same
genius.
same deal. I feel like I don't I'm trying to think if I've ever gone that route. It was like a route that I had, like, thought of, where I was just like, because after seeing it so much, it's just like, wow, that's actually a really, like, if because I'll have some people ask too, like, yeah, like, "Oh, how do you get connected? How do you find these people?" And it's just like, it's like right there.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's
It's
literally
right.
right on your
It's
phone,
literally
like
yes. Yes. And nowadays, like, because the era of social media, it is the resume in a sense.
yeah.
So people do take credit. You are seeing more musical directors who typically were hidden. They weren't the people that were out there being like, I did this. They didn't care. They were like,
No, they
I
don't
do
need to
this.
care.
Exactly. And they're like, well, this is just one of the 20 that's on my roster. They're
Yes.
very appreciative, but they don't need the public appreciation.
No.
So it was a tough space, but now we are in that era of social media. They are actually being like, yeah, they're reposting stuff and they're putting things out there, letting people know, like, I'm doing this. And I think that's
Yeah.
brilliant, man. That's very, very smart. So as you pivoted to here, right? Now you're at the space, and before that, actually, I'm actually more intrigued there. Before that, you did social media, and you that's how I found you initially, and then we obviously met here in Los Angeles. But I found you via social media, and you were putting up incredible content, and not just content of you chopping, but you were playing music and approaching it in a way I was like, "Yo, who does this guy play for?" It was never a he's a social media drummer, and this is no knock to anyone who is in the influencer
Sure.
space. It's just different, no different
Mhm.
than session players versus live players. It's just different. So that's one thing I appreciated with you. But did you intentionally post things like that, or were you just naturally more intrigued as a player to be more in the pocket fluidity space versus the chop space?
I think yeah, that's a great question, and I think since moving to Los Angeles, I was, like, extremely intentional about that because again, it was like, if this is what people I think 9.9 out of 10 times, if you're ever up for a gig, the first thing they ask you is like, "Okay, great. Go ahead and email a link to your Instagram."
Yeah.
Every
Yep.
single time. Like, in-person auditions are not really a thing anymore, it is at least from what I've found.
Agreed.
And so I was very intentional with that, where I was just like, okay, if like a management team for an artist is going to be looking at my account, I want to portray like not that it's like not that it's different from how I like to play, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I definitely was just I was like super intentional with just like, all right, like I really do want to highlight that like, I'm not just gonna put, like, a blazing chop that I'm looping for 60 seconds and be like, "Oh, this is gonna do great." Like, people are gonna love this. It's just like,
Yeah.
maybe, but, if I were MGing an artist and I saw that, I'd be like, "Hmm, well,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not what I'm into." You know what I mean? Like, maybe not.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I definitely kept that in mind, and I was just like approaching it in a way where I could demonstrate like, okay, here is a section of like playing for the song. Here's a section of accenting parts of the song that make it interesting. Here's a section of like, okay, little spicy chop at the end to show that like at least yeah, like there's the capability,
Yeah. You
like
you got to
there's
show you can
room.
go. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's a huge I mean, that's a whole topic in itself, right? But,
Yes, it is. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, to make a long answer long, it was yeah, very, very intentional. Yeah, that's a great question, man.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for people in that sense? Because there's certain things that in my consultations I give my framework on it, but I don't necessarily believe I'm always right. There's definitely more schools of thought behind certain approaches and how people want to go ahead and convey their gift to the world. Do you have any advice to people that are, the 19-year-old version of you that is considering, okay, I want to tour, I want to be a call, or, whatever they're trying to do with how to approach their social media? Because I love your content.
Oh, thanks,
I
bro.
genuinely enjoy your content. And I might be biased because you're also one of my favorite people, but that doesn't matter. Your content is amazing.
Thanks, dude. That's super kind of you, man. I really appreciate that. I honestly, if I could give any advice, it would really be like, um, I think a couple of things, two things. I think one is the main focus should be at the end of the day, like post what you like. You know what I mean? Like really post what you enjoy playing and what you enjoy creating. And I guess this is the second thing, kind of just like a part two to that first thing, though, is do not, don't fall into the trap of posting like what you think people are going to like to see. because I think I kinda learned that a little bit the hard way where, like, we were talking about earlier, you look back to when you were a lot younger, right? And you're like, you have these posts and you're just like, "Oh, that's terrible."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that is
Yep.
the worst thing I've ever seen, and I just think, yeah, a lot of the time, especially with kind of just, like I was thinking about this earlier today a little bit, like, the trend of social media right now is kind of like it's either your post is viral or it's not. And I,
Yes.
I think a huge detriment to musicians is like, oh, I want the viral post because that's gonna get me a gig. And it's like, it won't. Maybe. But
Nah.
in reality, it's like, I don't know if it will. I think the biggest thing is like you post what you like. Even if what you like is a 2 and 4 beat of
Yeah.
just playing 2 and 4 for 3 minutes straight on a song or on a loop that you like, literally, that I think that has more value to not only yourself as a player, but to anyone watching it that like, if your goal is to be hired for, like, live stuff, I think that just has more value, like and I think you'll just feel better at the end of the day with the content that you put out if you're just like, "No, you know what? Like, I know this didn't go viral and I didn't get a million views or whatever, but, like, even if you got 20 likes, if you got 2 likes, if it's something that you can go back and be, like, really proud of and just like, "Oh, honestly, like, I s" yeah, I think that just for, like, if like, the mental side of things and, like, your soul,
Yeah.
I feel like it's just a
Yes.
better route. I really just think that's kind of like the biggest advice is just things that you like to play. Now, like that being said, I think you can still be intentional with like hitting certain aspects of playing that necessarily you wouldn't like post every time, but you're doing it in order to kind of like appeal to a certain audience that you want to appeal to. I think that's cool too. I think the main thing though is just like to not post something just because you feel like that's like what the current trend is pulling you to post. If
Yes.
that makes sense.
Makes complete sense to me. I think you need to know where you wanna go, and I think that typically will let you know what you need to put out there.
Yeah,
There is a market for just being an influencer musician, and trust me, you still get what your all your endorsements you want to. You'll
total
still get
probably
paid well.
faster. Like
Yeah, actually 100% faster.
yeah.
You'll still get all the things that, you and I and other musicians that are in the same scope have, but
Mhm.
you necessarily will not be on the stage with the artist that you're listening to on Spotify or the song that you would cover. Both are fine. If you want to
Yeah.
sit into the realm of being the person on stage, that's also beautiful. But if you
Yeah.
don't, there is still a market for you. But all that just to kind of package it is just know what you're posting so you'll know why you're posting it. You know,
Yes.
that is
Yes,
so,
exactly.
so important, bro. And I think you have mastered that because everything you post, I'm like, I wish I would have thought of that.
Oh,
Like,
bro, get out of
it's
here, man.
it's so
That's too
good.
kind.
Dude, I'm so serious. You and David Kola always have posted. You guys have kind of like been on that player and still micro influencer kind of vibe, but it's so well done. I'm like, yeah, that's nice job, and
Oh,
shout out to
man.
you, bro.
Thanks, dude. I
Of
appreciate that. That is super sweet of you to say that.
It's so true though. Now you also talked about you do things that you liked, playing wise you liked, but you also brought up something the old Ludwig kick, and I know you are currently with Ludwig. This
Yes.
one of your decisions I won't judge publicly. Uh, just kidding. Ludwig's phenomenal, by the way. Like they make incredible drums.
Yeah.
But can you talk a
Goated.
little bit about your endorsements? Did you always play which you are currently endorsed with, and how did you choose them? Like, what was your process with it?
Dude, yeah, that is another great question that I I have, some thoughts on for sure.
Yes.
That yeah, I love it. I have played so, like, since day 1, it's always been, like, since I could choose, right? Obviously, when I was 4, I wasn't like, I want a Ludwig classic maple. It was like, it was just kind of
Right.
like, oh, here's a drum set for Christmas. This is awesome.
Yep.
But like,
Enjoy.
since I
Yep.
was like, yeah, able to like choose companies, it's always been for me, Ludwig drums, Zildjian cymbals, Remo drum heads, and Big Firth drumsticks.
Come
And
on now.
so, yeah, that's just been my thing for, yeah, for as long as I can remember. And so I I remember yeah, when coming up, I was always just like, I gotta get endorsed. Once I get an endorsement, then that means that artists will take me seriously and they'll hire me for gigs.
It's so true. It's so
It's
true.
just
The
like, this
thoughts.
is gonna change everything. Like, it's gonna
Yep.
change everything. And in reality, I cannot emphasize enough. Like, that is so not the case. It's really, no matter, even if like you hear me saying this and you think like, oh, this guy doesn't know anything, could be true, but like I still stand by it. Really, the art, like an artist or an artist's team or management or an MD, they're not going to be like, oh, because this guy's with this company, like that means he's a better player than someone that's not with this company, right? So like for me, I remember my first endorsement was, it was a cymbal company, and I was just like, and it was not Zildjian, and I remember being like, this is so sick. I now am with a company and they're gonna take me to NAM and I'm gonna be at NAM and everyone's gonna magically just be like, "Oh, you're endorsed? Like, who's
Yeah.
this guy?" And it's just,
Yep.
unfortunately, it was, yeah, not the case. And so I remember having like a very, like vivid realization of like, this is gonna sound obvious, but I think you'll know what I'm saying, kind of like when, after signing with this other company and getting the cymbals in and stuff and having them on my setup, I was just like, huh, now I guess I have to play these cymbals and I don't get to play the cymbals that I like to play. Like,
Yes.
I don't get to play the Zildjians that I was used to or that I wanted. It was just like, oh, I just found myself kind of being like, what sounds the most similar to the cymbals that I actually like
Yeah.
playing,
Yep.
like, and I just remember getting hit with that realization so hard. And yeah, it was just, it was crazy. And so I remember when that I think, gosh, that was a long, it was a while ago. I'm trying to think. I think I got to the point where I was just like, I don't think this is for me. I think I'm trying to think what the sequence of events was, but I think it was, yeah, I was just like, this is just not doing it for me.
Sure.
Like I thought this was going to be the thing, but it was not the thing. And I was just like, I remember after not being with that company anymore, just like a breath of fresh air of just like, oh my gosh, I can now play, I can play my old cymbals, like
Yeah.
I
Play
can
what you
be,
want.
yeah, like, which I was just really stoked about. And so, the biggest the biggest, I think, advice, solicited or unsolicited, that I could give on endorsements is, like,
Yeah.
just literally just wait. Just wait. It'll happen. You know what I mean? Like, it will
Yeah.
happen, and I remember hearing that as a kid, and I'd be like, "Stop talking." Like, "Don't tell
Yeah.
me that." Like,
Yeah. Exactly.
don't tell me that, I don't wanna hear that. I don't like, I want it right now. I just
Yep.
can't emphasize enough how important it is to just wait for the companies that you actually wanna play. And it could be the case where, like, let's say you play Gretsch drums, but let's say you also really like, Sonar, or you like Pearl or Ludwig or whatever. And then you have an opportunity with one of those companies. I think that's great. I think, like, the main thing is, like, don't just seek out an endorsement just to get, like, just to have the credit of, like, "Oh, I'm an endorsed player," right? It's just, I
Yes.
really don't think that that is a healthy way to go about it, because, yeah, then you're stuck playing those, and I don't know, like, I feel like what you play kind of, it like, um it's part of, like, your voice on the instrument, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's kind of that's my 2 cents on it is just wait, and it'll
I agree.
happen, and I know it's hard to be patient, and I guess sorry, dude, again, I'm just
No, bro,
yapping.
I'm here to talk to you. Please keep talking. It's so good what you're saying. It's excellent.
Dude, awesome. I'm glad you think so, but, like, um, I the last thing I'll say about it is, um, I know it can also be really tough. A situation that I think it can be, like, brutal is if when the work starts to come and more frequently too where you're starting to play a lot and stuff starts breaking. That is a really tough spot. You know what I mean? That could
Yes.
definitely like change your mindset on things for sure. And like I definitely see that, like I understand that like heavily where it's like if you're cracking cymbals and you're going on a 2-month tour and you don't have the support from a cymbal company, that is really brutal, you know, because it is like it's not cheap to replace a cymbal, and especially if you have like a $700 cymbal you play as like a ride or something, it's like, and
Yep.
you break it, it's just like, oh my gosh, now I have to spend like that's
Yeah.
really tough. Same with drum heads, there
Yes.
and like and sticks especially like
Everything's
th-
expensive right now.
it's really expensive. Like even just
Everything.
looking at prices, it's just like, oh my gosh, like it's really, really expensive, just the way
Yeah.
the economy is and whatever else. It's just things are not getting cheaper and like so I definitely understand from that standpoint of just like, well, I don't like to play this company, but they're offering me a great deal. It's just like, yeah, you got to do what you got to do. So if
Sure.
so then I guess overall mainly like if you have you know if you have the like ability or you're in a position to be patient, I would recommend being patient to play what you wanna play.
Yeah, I think that's some beautiful advice. I think piggybacking off that is like once you get to a certain level and you have production and tour managers and those types of people, they will also handle your writer. So I've always thought about that too. I always just play what I wanted. And I was so open to trying different things. I mean, I tried different drum heads, I tried different cymbals, but there was more to me. And I don't know if you have a similar testimony, but there was more to it than just the company. It was like, could I get it in Europe? Could I get it in Asia? Were they consistent? What was the reputation like when it came down to having dialogue with the there was so many more factors. It was like, I'm just better off sticking to what I like. They're gonna get me what I need because they need me to do a job. But ultimately it's like, well, now I'm comfortable because I'm playing what I like. I'm playing what I know, I'm playing what I'm familiar with, and there was more variables. Was any of that a factor for you, or you were like, "Nope, I'm just gonna stay where I am. I'm gonna stay to it and then get there."
Yeah, that's an awesome point too. Like, I think I was just fortunate enough where the companies that I've always enjoyed playing have luckily been kind of like worldwide
Yeah.
companies where, thankfully, there is support for those brands, overseas and stuff. Um And so I think yeah, I'm just fortunate in that it was kind of already set up. But it is such a huge thing to consider though, you know, because
Yeah.
like if someone like not knocking any companies at all, but like if there's like a more boutique company that you really like playing and you're just like, no, I want to be an artist for this super niche boutique brand, that's
Yeah.
totally fine. But you kind of just have to know like and it's almost worth, like, bringing it up to them just like, "Hey, when I travel to this remote place in South America," or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or in, like, in Asia, they're most likely not gonna have, like, a Craviotto or
Yeah,
whatever the
yeah, yeah.
kit,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah. Yep.
over there, like, in all of your sizes. Like, I just
Yeah.
think it's something to definitely be realistic about, and that does play a big part in it too. Um, but yeah, luckily, I just have been fortunate where the companies I enjoy, they do have backline options around the world.
Yes. Yeah, it's so important though, 'cause it's the tools. It's what you need to do your job. And
Hmm.
we sit in seats that the audience is depending on us. This isn't something, and this is no knock to any other instrument. It's just kind of what it is. The drummer can never hide. If we're not playing
Yes.
it and you hear something, they're like, "The hell's going on
Yeah,
over
like,
there?
"That
Everything
sounds
all right?"
weird."
Right.
You're the first
Right.
person that gets the look. Like, it's just like
Every time, bro.
it's like, "It's not me, I swear."
Bro, it's like every single time something goes haywire, they look at you. I'm like, I'm not playing that. Like, I
Yeah,
don't.
it's like, "I'm literally out for this song." Like
It's so true. I think it's beautiful. The gems that you just gave on endorsements, I hope people take to heart. I think there's a lot of benefits to endorsements if you wait. If you wait it
Mhm.
out and you're willing to have the conversation and you don't go in saying, give me, give me, give me. You go in with the concept of, I'm looking for a partnership. I'm looking to grow. I'm looking to be an asset. It works out a little bit easier. And even if they don't give you paperwork, one of the problems that, just brought up there is like, if you're breaking stuff, sometimes the conversation, and do you know Nate Morton, drummer for The Voice?
Oh, yeah, I heard the name, not personally, but I
Yeah,
know who you're
perfect.
talking about. Yeah,
Nate did a phenomenal drum clinic and he talked about this, and he's one of the faces for Pearl right now. But he didn't start there. He was like, they wouldn't really give me the time of day because I had no resume. And he's like, that's fair. So he just worked out, okay, I have my own this, I have my own that. Could we work out a deal, if something breaks, we could just figure out artist pricing? And they were okay with that, no worries. And then slowly built the conversation. And I think it took him a few years. And sorry, Nate, if I'm mischaracterizing the history of your relationship with Pearl, but essentially he worked himself up to there. So, guys, it's okay to have those conversations too. I'm breaking sticks all the time. Vic, can we figure out artist pricing? I'm not looking to be on the roster right now, but I am on the road right now. I'm happy to do
totally.
Instagram things, whatever I can do to help facilitate that. They're usually not unreasonable. It's
Yeah,
all about the
definitely.
approach. I think that's a really, really big thing for people if you are considering endorsements. So I hope people took notes, 'cause I did.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so dope. So you're doing a lot of touring right now, and when we chatted last, you were doing stuff with Bebe Rexha, and um most recently, you're doing some amazing, amazing, amazing stuff that I'm not gonna spoil, but I want you to brag about yourself for a second. What are you currently doing?
Currently, I'm drumming with Hilary Duff, which it's been awesome. It has been really, really amazing, and the whole squad is so great to work with, and she's great, and
Yeah,
I'm very, very thankful to have been, brought into the fold of, like, all that's been going on with that, you know? So
yeah.
that is my current situation.
No, it's congrats, by the way. That's
Thanks, man.
major.
Thank you,
That
dude. I
that
appreciate you.
is it's so phenomenal. Can you talk about how you got the gig? Is that something you're able to discuss?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope.
I hope so too.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, I was, yeah, I'm trying to think, gosh, it was, like, back in rehearsals were going on for, like, we had a lot of rehearsals kind of veiling everything that's kinda coming up now, and so, before rehearsals started, um I remember I'm trying to think, I was, like, about to do, like, a filming for, I think, for Jimmy Kimmel with just, like, a different artist, kind of a one-off thing, just subbing in, yeah, and I remember I was just prepping for that. I think we had, like, a rehearsal, like, 1 or 2, maybe 2 rehearsals for that shoot, um and I was just, like, in my spot, just practicing, and I remember the MD for Hillary, who's a homie. Like, I've worked with him, a few times in the past, and I really have always enjoyed working with him, and he's great, and yeah, he's a
Amazing.
friend too, and he's awesome, an incredible MD.
Yeah.
Great player
Who's
too. Like,
MDing?
it's Jacob Herlick.
Sick. I don't think
Yeah.
we've ever met. I've heard of his name, but I don't think we've ever
Yeah.
crossed paths.
Incredible MD. Really nice dude too. Like,
Amazing.
yeah, which is like an awesome scenario. And
Yeah,
so,
of course it is.
yeah. And I just remember I was just like practicing and, for this other thing, and then like I get a phone call from him, and I'm like, like I feel like Jacob and I, it's just kind of like we'll just shoot each other texts or whatever, and I was just like,
Right. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
like, and I'll the occasional call just to be like, hey, how's it going, man? Just checking in, making sure everything's cool.
Sure.
And so I was just like, no, actually, I think I got a text. I got a text, and he was just like, what are you doing right now? And I was just like, oh, like that's interesting. And then like 2 seconds later, I think I got a phone call and the
He
phone
couldn't
call.
wait. Not
Yeah, I
waiting.
couldn't
Let's get
wait.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was and I was just like, "Hey, dude, like I'm just practicing." I can't remember if I may have told him like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this Kimmel thing." So I think he may have already known about it, but I was just like, "Oh, like I'm just practicing. I've just got rehearsal
Yeah.
tomorrow." And he was and he was just like, basically he laid out the gig and was just like, "Hey, MDing this I'm MDing Hilary Duff, and we this is the rehearsal time frame, and this is kind of what we're looking at for the foreseeable future. Is this something that you would be interested in?" And I was like, um in all honesty, at first I was kind of in the mindset, I was just like, I don't think I have time to because like they had like a chunk of rehearsal that they were like they had everything kind of already scheduled out, and so he
Yeah.
had all the dates for me and stuff, and I was just like, like I don't know if I'm gonna be able to swing this, just because I had like um I just had stuff kind of booked where I was like gonna be traveling. But yeah, I just had like some travel stuff booked, and then like some stuff with, yeah, family and just like life, where I was like,
Yeah.
gosh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to like make your time frames that you guys kind of already have planned out,
Sure.
which a lot of the time, if that is the case, they're just like, "Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. Thanks," and they move on, which
And
is
they move on.
that's just how it goes,
Yeah.
that
Which is
happens
fair.
so fair. It happens
Totally
all the
fair.
time, literally all the time. Even if it's like, "Oh, I can't make 2 of the days," it's just like, "Oh, sorry, man. Well, thanks,"
Yeah.
which
Literally.
again,
Yeah.
that's just kinda how it goes. And so at first I was like, gosh, I don't think I'm gonna be able to make all of these dates and stuff. And then I guess, yeah, to keep a long story not as long, I ended up I was just kind of chatting with my wife about it, and I was just like, yeah, like Jacob, because she knows Jacob too, and she was I was just like, yeah, like Jacob hit me up. Um, is this like what am I even able to you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
because she knows like my schedule and stuff. And we were just kind of like, yeah, like I don't know if we're able to like actually swing it, and so um yeah, I ended up going in, and that he was just like, why don't you just, yeah, come in and we'll just run some songs. And I was just like, all right, that's cool.
Yeah. Sounds great.
That's cool. I can do that, and it was yeah, I ended up I came in, and um I had a few songs that I was working out on the way over to the audition.
Yeah.
Cuz yeah, they obviously wanted to keep things very yeah, under like kind of like tight lips, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? They
Yeah.
were wanting to
100%.
keep everything very, so it wasn't a scenario where they were just like, oh, like here's a lot of time essentially to work on these things. They were just kind of just like, hey, we just want to see if your style on how you would approach these songs, right? And so they sent me the songs that day, and I drove over same day. In the evening, I was just like, in all honesty, I was just like, I need to go to the grocery store. I got to get some milk for my
Yeah.
daughter. Like
Yeah.
I'll get in as soon as I can. And they were really super accommodating with that, which was really sweet.
For sure.
And so I made it into like where they were at. And they had like a kit that was set up like in like a live room, and they were just like, do you want to just run through a few of these songs? And I was just kind of like thinking at the time, like, this is like here goes something, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
I'll do my best, but like this I'll just do what I can. And honestly, it wasn't really nervous just because of that, where I was just like, I really like, I'll just do whatever I can, and whatever happens,
yeah.
happens. And so ran through some songs, and it was very kinda high pressure, like, in
Of
a way where
course.
it was just like, you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not very comfortable with the roadmap of these songs, but I'm gonna just send it anyway and try
Yeah,
and
that's it.
add, like, my flair or whatever," like, so yeah, played the songs, and then they were just like, "All right, man, like, come on into the listening room," and I was just like, "Okay, sick, like, see what happens," and, yeah, again, now, long story very long, they liked what they heard and saw, and so they were just like, "Yeah, man, like, here's kind of the deal. Um, if you're interested, it's yours." And I was just like, "Let's do
Wow.
it, like, sick." Like,
Yeah,
that sounds
wow.
incredible, and so, yeah, it was super exciting, and it was, like, it was really great, and I'm just so everyone was, like, so sweet and kind, like, even on first day when they knew that I'd, like, had just listened to these tunes and stuff, like, they were really accommodating, and, it's just been yeah, it's been incredible ever since. It's been awesome. I feel, like, super blessed to be a part of it.
Dude, that's so exciting. Congrats, man.
Thanks,
Like,
dude.
that's really dope. Also, just respect to you for most people and musicians wouldn't have done what you did. Of, yo, I don't know, I have some stuff, and then you went and talked to your wife, and then you made a different decision, and but you knew your calendar looked very different.
Mhm.
And turning down a name like that and an opportunity like that, especially if he already laid out the calendar. We just saw the announcement, so I'm assuming that calendar was announced to you beforehand.
Yeah, at least, like, yeah, they had a good idea of, like, what
For
they were
sure.
working with, you know, and so yeah.
That's dope, man, and but God has a way of just working things out.
Mhm, yeah,
It's
100%.
it's sneaky how that just works out, man, but
Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, but everything I've heard and seen from you has been phenomenal, so good job, man. Like,
Thanks, dude.
seriously, job well done, and I'm so pumped to see what you guys create for this next portion coming up because 'cause I'm excited. Like, I'm so pumped.
Dude, me too, man, me too.
Yeah,
That whole team just crushes, and,
yeah.
it's just so fun, like, everything is so fun and so, like, cohesive, you know? It's a really enjoyable work environment.
That's a it looks like you guys are having fun. And that's not
Yeah.
always the
Yeah, yeah.
case.
Totally.
Sometimes you get some things where people look like they're just on autopilot, and that's
Yeah.
understandable too.
Yeah, yeah,
But you
yeah.
all look like you're having a freaking blast up there. She looks like she's having a great time, and that's yeah, that's really awesome, man. I'm so pumped for that, and I can't think of a more deserving person. Yeah, good job, bro. I'm very excited for you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
Very exciting. I wanted to ask you a question about sub work because you said even in the midst of what you were doing before, Hillary, you were filling in for someone. And that's an art form, in my opinion. What is your, I know you and I get calls often to do fill in for people, which is, thank God.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there's an art form to that. So how do you approach filling in? What is the attitude like? What is your approach when learning the songs? Like, do you have a system? What is your process?
Yeah, I feel like for sitting in on stuff, most of the time it'll be like you're being sent like a live bounce, you know,
Yeah.
of what the normal like the usual drummer is playing or something like that, you know. And so most of the time I feel like my approach is just like the safe approach, I guess, where I'm just like I'm just going to learn their parts. I think naturally, like, yeah, naturally, your own, like, your playing style will just come out. But, like, I feel like my approach, and a lot of the time too, like, if it's like an MD that's sending these parts to you, they preface it with just like either like, "Hey, man, these are the parts. Like, go ahead and just play these," or they'll just kind of be like, "Hey, here's the parts, but do your thing." And that's kind of like the fun part where you're just like, "Oh, sick.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do
Yep.
yeah, like I will."
Yep.
Um, and so that kind of determines the approach a little bit too, like how much freedom you have. But if they're just like, "Yeah, these are the parts," then I feel like that's it. You just are like, that's what you have to work with, and it's just like, I'm just gonna hit these exactly how you're supposed to. And then obviously, like, I think what's really important too is just going into it with like the attitude of like, "Hey, like, thank you so much for having me." As
Yeah.
opposed to like, "Oh, here's an opportunity. Like, this could be my gig." Like that.
Oh,
I feel like
so
that's just
icky.
like, it's so icky. And you can always like, I feel like you can kind of tell when people are, when they have that mindset of just like, "Oh, I'm gonna crush it even more than this person does." Like, and I like, hopefully they use me. I don't know. I just
It's
don't
a
think that's
gross. So
yeah,
gross.
and it's just kind of like, I think if you go into it with, I think it's just a better experience for everyone, if you go into it with just like, yeah, like, "Hey, I'm here to just support the gig and hold it down, and that's what I'm here to do," you
That's
know?
it.
And if it's like, if something happens where that usual drummer goes on another tour with another artist, then like, yeah, try and do the best job you can, so that if that's the case and something like that happens in like a natural way where like everyone wins, that's great.
Yes.
Cool. But like, I think going into it with like oh, I want to do a good job and I'm going to try and work it so that they get booted, is just like,
Yeah.
no one wins. It's just not a good look. I think yeah, I think that is something I would try to avoid. So yeah, as long, I think it's just good to hold it down and just like serve the camp the best you can. Um, and then also like, this is a weird detail. Um, but like, if you can, if you're gonna like repost something or whatever on social media, like, it's always kind
Yeah,
of a
speak
nice
on
little,
that.
dude, I think it's a nice, a little thing to just be like holding it down for, and then tag them,
Yes.
because then
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that's a really good
Yes.
way of everyone winning too, just because then, yeah, like, you are doing that gig, right? So like, it's nice that you get that credit, but then also it just, I think, makes who you're holding it down for, it kind of is just like, it, they can relax a little bit because they're just like, "Oh, sweet."
Yeah.
Like, everyone is seeing that, at least like you know what I mean? Like, they're still getting
Yes.
credit too because that's kind of like their thing. And so, I
You
know
build
that's
trust.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, they're, and then hopefully you get called back. Like,
Yeah.
if they need a sub again, they're not going to be like, "Oh, this dude was like the worst." Try like
Yes.
his, bad attitude, whatever. Like, um, I think it's a good, yeah, and I think it's a great way of getting your name recommended to other artists where they're like in the same situation where they need a sub, and
Yes.
you're someone that they can trust.
I think being a sub is one of the biggest opportunities that people don't really take advantage of. There's an opportunity for
Mhm.
you to showcase that you can learn music quickly, retain it. You can come in and be an asset, but not an overbearing presence, and also an musical director can trust, okay, cool. I sent this person these parts. They executed perfectly. Like the artist isn't confused. I always take the approach that I don't want the artist to miss the presence of the person that was before me.
Yes.
If there's
Yeah,
certain
yeah.
fills that they always did, and I'll also do more than whatever I got sent. I'll go back and search things if it's out there. Okay, if they always do a 16th note fill here, that is happening. Like
Yes, like, that
there's no
has to be there.
it just has to be there. We're not negotiating this one. Because you never want the artist to look back and be like, okay, that's different. Even if it's not wrong, you just don't want them to feel the presence of someone missing. And then to your point, it's like now if you get in a situation, it's like, yo, Patch came in and smashed this, had a great time. And the drummer's like, I got to step away. Yo, let's just use Patch again. Like he was a great time. You guys had a great rapport. You sounded great. You guys, oh yeah, we forgot. Yeah, let's use it. Always
Totally.
goes that way.
Yeah, literally, like, every time.
Every time, bro. And I think your framework is beautiful. And that's a safe way to approach that where you're not violating the trust of the person that you're filling in for. You're also not being this overbearing presence, but you're also being like, okay, I am here. I am playing these drums and let's get to it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, definitely.
that's dope. And the last thing I kind of really wanted to talk to you about is like last time we actually had a chance to chop it up in the parking lot of our studio area.
Yeah.
I don't remember who we were talking to, but we were giving advice and, just our experience on playing and with intentionality. A lot of drummers in what we've discovered are not as intentional about their playing. And we have an idea of power and clarity is the right way to go about this versus subtle and almost confused,
Yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah.
what is
Uh-huh.
what is your approach with that? Because you also sit in band leader positions sometimes. You have to refer people to do certain things that you may not be able to do. Is there any advice that you would give to up and coming drummers who do want to be in a touring space playing wise, right? We already talked about the networking side of it. I think everybody can apply, but now you're an expert drummer, in my opinion. I'll argue that all day. W- Do you have any advice on approaching touring drumming? Being in the pop, R&B, hip hop space. Do you have any advice on approach and things like?
Yeah. I think for me, it's something I really try and yeah, a couple things I think that I really try and like focus on. I guess the first one being like, I guess when it comes to just like the playing aspect of it, I guess I can get to like your attitude and your your stuff like that later.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
um, for the playing aspect, I think like I really, really try and focus on like your cleanliness as a player, like note spacing and stuff. Like, and that might be the boring stuff for a lot of people, but I think like I like hyper fixate on trying to be like as clean as I possibly can, where it's just like yeah, where just because I think it's what I tend to gravitate towards as a player is like cleanliness. When someone like hits something, even if, it's very note heavy or whatever it is, like if it's clean, it's just like that's what I think is the most like inspiring, and people are just like, "Oh, let's go. That was so sick."
Yes.
Versus like if you're kind of like, which I guess that kind of goes hand in hand with like confidence as a player. And just being confident like with what you're playing, you know what I mean? Like with what you're
Sure.
actually doing, right? So if you're like, well, here's a section, a big hit section, and there's a lot of drum stuff going on in between these hits or accents or whatever, like be confident and just like, yeah, like really subscribe to what it is that you're playing. Otherwise, it's not going to come across that way. And then I think that a lot of people will find themselves in the position where you'll try something that's like, maybe a little, fun or spicy, and then
Yeah.
if you're not confident with it, that's when people are just like, no, maybe I think that's too much. And it's
Every
just like
time.
every single time. Whereas, like, if you're super clean with it and you're confident with it, people will be like, "Oh, that was sick." Like
Yes.
that was smacking or whatever, like, they'll be really hyped on it, and
Yeah.
so I think, like, um, focusing on, yeah, note spacing is, I think, really important just to be as clean a player as you can. Because if you're playing like on a pop gig, for example, you're probably going to be playing the tracks like almost 10 out of 10 times, and you're going to be playing with click too. And if there are tracks going on and if the tracks are, for example, like pretty like percussion heavy, like if there's like trap hi-hats going on or a shaker or something going on in the tracks, um, I can tell you those are going to be perfect every single time.
Every
Those
time.
are those are going to be right on the grid.
Yep.
That won't change. And if it
Yeah.
does, that's another story that's concerning, but like but like I think yeah, so
Yeah.
it really matters, and, like, same deal with how you strike your drums too, like, you're gonna want you're just I mean, I guess to each their own, but my advice would be like the cleanliness on your tones and what your snare is going to sound like when you're providing the backbeat for like a pop song that needs to be like punchy, right? Or your toms,
Yeah,
same deal. It's like you really want everything to just be um clean, you know? And then I guess kind of another thing too, just like on the topic of it that I like to think about is like if if a section for a song calls for a little something busier, um, I think a really good starting point is to like, and I think a really safe starting point too for a drummer is, um, and this isn't, I know this isn't like a new concept, but like keep the backbeat going, right? If the song has a 2 and 4 backbeat, do whatever you want. I mean, obviously, depending on what the song is calling for, what the MD is
sure.
calling for, what the artist wants, right? But like if they're saying like, hey man, like do something sick here, right? Like sometimes people will say that all the time, like do something cool, like do yeah,
Yeah.
busier right here.
Yep.
Keep the backbeat, do whatever you want around the backbeat, and people like I think the goal would be to not have someone's head turn in a way where it's just like, no, that's weird. That kind of
Yeah.
the song doesn't really feel the same with that. But if you like keep the backbeat going and you're doing like stuff around the backbeat, that's a really safe way where it's like you can make your part really sick and serve the song in like such a cool way, and the identity of the song is still present,
Yes.
just by doing something as simple as like keeping the backbeat, keeping potentially the kick pattern too, you know what I mean?
Every time. It's
Yeah,
always the
like
safest way. If you
yes.
keep the kick pattern and keep the 2 and 4 and just fill in between those gaps, you win.
You literally win. You get to play more fun parts because they'll be
Yes.
stoked and they'll want you to keep those parts in there.
Yes.
So, like, that's kind of, I think, from a playing standpoint, I think that's like, um, at least for me, that's what I like to focus on because then it's just like kind of back to like everyone wins. You play a more fun part that's more complex if that's
Yes.
what you're after, and then the artist slash MD or whatever gets what they're after too. If they want like a busier drum part for something, and then yeah, I feel like that's kind of like from a playing
Perfect.
standpoint that those
Yeah.
are kind of the tips that I would give if you're in that pop space or if you're trying to be in the pop space. And I guess same kind of for like hip hop too, or like anything in that world. It's like you're gonna want the drums to do what the drums are supposed to do. Um,
Yes.
if something calls for more, like build on that. Don't like replace it with a different feel. You know?
Yes. I co-sign everything you just said. I've noticed if you deviate, you also kind of get caught up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you'll mess around and you get out of phase for where you were supposed to be by just not keeping those key principles in place.
Mm-hmm.
But every time you focus on, okay, I know the kick pattern has to be this, that's non-negotiable. You know, it's literally not up for discussion. It has to be that.
Totally.
You will win every single one of your chops and fills every single time. As
Yeah.
soon as you try to be this like cool person, it gets spicy, man. You get some turns and yeah, you landed to the one, bro, but come on.
Yeah. Technically, yeah. It's just like I guess you got there.
I don't know if that was the right thing to do.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, man, I think that's beautiful, bro. I love everything you've just said. I really hope people take that into consideration. And then I would love for you to talk about character because you're one of the easiest people to get along with, hands down. There's a few drummers that don't have massive presence, and it's not ego. It's just drummers are just pretty outgoing. It's like guitarists. Guitarists are pretty like in your face people. Not bad, but it's just what it is. But you're one of the more. You and RJ Kelly kind of fall into that space for me. You and RJ are like the sweetest people, the most relaxed, very soft spoken. But as soon as you people get on drums, all of a sudden these monster in you comes out. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. But talk about the character, bro, because you have one of the sweetest characters ever, but you also are around really phenomenal people often. how important is that for you in success in general?
Okay, well, I'll start by just saying thank you for putting me in any category with RJ. That is extremely kind of you.
For
He is like
sure.
such a insane player and such a nice dude.
Yeah, one of the best ever, by the way.
It's just so sick. An amazing arranger too. He is just great. He's really, really
Yeah.
great. But yeah, dude, I think for me, like I just really I like remember one time um I was playing at like a camp um when I was younger, and I remember like I was like in like the house band, and this guy um like it was like after we had played, and this dude was like around who knew he like knew all the other members of like the band. And so he was kind of just going around being like, oh man, like basically saying just like nice things about each one of them, right? And then he got to me and he was just like, man, like I don't know you, but yeah, like you sounded great though. And it was just what was interesting to me about that was like such a random story, but I think it'll make sense. But what stood out to me is I was just like, "Oh, like, it kinda, like, didn't feel good to just be known as, um, like, where the only, I guess, like, compliment was about, like, just, like, the playing."
Right.
And I was just kinda like, "Gosh, like, that, like, really didn't feel good." And so I honestly, like, from again, very random thing, but, like, after that, I was kinda just like, "Gosh," I think what for me is really important is just like making other people like feel like yeah like feel comfortable and just like excited to be around you,
Yeah.
especially like in an industry where like if you are on a tour, like you're around each other a lot. It's like you spend a lot of time together throughout the day, and then it's like when it's time for bed, if you're on a bus, you're sleeping 12 inches from them. Like, you're,
Yeah.
like, so
Yes.
you're in such close quarters all the time that, like, I just kinda was like, I would just rather be someone where people, like, were excited to see, and that's kind of been, like, the goal, and they were, like, excited to have around,
Yeah.
and, like, yeah, as opposed to someone where they walk in and you're just kinda like, "Ah, man, like, I don't know, like, this guy is always, like, in a bad mood or something or,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
or whatever," and I just, like yeah, I just never really wanted to be that person, and so not saying I'm not like, I'm doing my best trying to, yeah, all I can do is try, I guess, just trying to be
Killing it, man.
as not thanks, man, but just yeah, trying to be as nice as I can, and, um, yeah, and just, like, an enjoyable person to be around and hopefully, like, encourage other people, during, things that can be, like, kinda discouraging, like, if you're away from your family for a while or whatever it might be, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, like, I think, like, musicians and stuff, like, are kinda, like, sensitive people sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And so I'm like, I kinda try and just, like, encourage people when I can just 'cause it feels good, like, when it is reciprocated, and, like, if someone
Yes.
encourages you, it's like that kinda stuff, like, sticks around at least for me, like, if whenever someone has, like, said something nice about me to me, like, I'm just like, "Wow," like, that is, like, a really it's, like, super touching, And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I feel like I try to hopefully, like, make people feel good about themselves and, like, what they do because I think it's just yeah, it's, like, an important thing, just to be
It's
kind.
valuable.
Yeah, super
Very
valuable.
valuable.
Yeah, and I don't know if you had asked about, like, the, like, character side. I think you would
Yeah,
mention something about
please.
character
Yeah.
too, but, like, just from, like aside from it being, like, I think just a good thing to be like, aware of, I think it's also, like, if you just wanna look at it on paper, just from, like, a work standpoint, right? Like, you just wanna be someone that's, like, dependable and someone that people can count on, and I think a huge thing is, um, being, like, true to your word, essentially,
Yeah.
where if, like, you say you're gonna do something, I think it's just really a good thing to like follow through
Yeah.
and actually
Yes.
do what you say you're going to do. A lot of the time, like do the thing you're kind of hired to do,
Yeah.
you know? Um,
100%.
yeah. So I just feel like and like, it kind of like, just like, I don't, I feel like everyone can relate to this. Like when, when you know that you're like being, like trustworthy and a hard worker and you're on time and all of the things, right, that people hopefully hopefully know.
Yeah.
It just like feels good. You just are just it kind of just puts you in a better headspace where you're like, yeah, like I know I've been like at least trying to do my part in
Yeah.
just being like somebody that people can count on, and it just like is a nice feeling to at least be, like, working towards that, and I think, like, it
Yes.
doesn't go unnoticed too, like, I think people do notice that kinda thing when they know that they can, like, count on you and they don't have to, like, worry about, like, "Is this guy gonna show up to sound check on time?" Or, like,
Yeah.
whatever, or, like,
Yep.
just that's just one example, but, yeah, so I think it's all just really important stuff to keep in mind, you know?
I think it's one of the most important things,
Yeah, yeah, literally
that
agreed.
that aspect of it. And people forget that, we get these emails with everyone on it first. Before you walk into a room, you typically get some type of welcome email. And, if you have a really good TM or PM, they've put together who's on the tour.
Yeah,
And I'll look at it. I want to see who I'm might be playing with or who's going to be TMing this stuff. And there is sometimes where you get tense, and there's sometimes where you're like, oh, we're good.
yep,
That you want to be the person when they see your name that they're like, oh, we're so good. It's totally safe. It's going to be fun. It's going to be enjoyable. And they might not consciously be able to articulate what we're saying, because obviously you and I are specifically talking about it, but
yeah.
they'll know. They're like, I never have to worry about Patch. He's always on time. He's always there. He's always willing to help with luggage, get it on the bus. He's always willing to just be around and be a breath of fresh air. It's valuable. And
Mhm.
speaking of more people that will hire you, man, I've gotten referrals from TMs and PMs and things like that just because like he was easy to get along with. Of course he's good on his instrument, but like if
That's
I
the
could bring
last
guy
thing. Yeah, like yeah.
it's just like if I could bring this person along, man, they just want to make that happen, bro. So I think that's really dope that you're putting that out there for people to really gravitate towards. And I hope people take that seriously. Patch is an amazing, amazing drummer. That's clear. His resume speaks for himself, but he is a phenomenal person, and you won't necessarily see that because he doesn't speak often. That's why I wanted to talk to you. You and RJ, I wasn't able to throw you in the same category. I don't know. It's a lot of weight on there, but it's deserving. You both are very choosy about the word you say, but when you do decide to speak, they carry weight and value. And that is more important than being a person like me who likes to yap for a living. So that's super dope, man. Dude, thank you for being here. Like it means more to me than you'll probably ever know. But you're one of the people that when I was making this list of who do I want to talk to first, you were an easy person that I want to have a dialogue with. So wrapping it up, could you tell people where to find you if they want to hire you, if they want to, book a lesson, consultation? Where can they find where you're going to be playing? Give all those things, and we'll also put everything in descriptions and bios and all that stuff too, for sure.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, thank you for all the kind words, dude. That is just like super, super sweet and kind of you. I really appreciate it. Like
Of course.
that's the stuff that, yeah, I'm just like super thankful that you feel that way. And that's really,
And
really
it's
nice.
so
But
true. It's so true.
thanks, dude. But yeah, you can just find me. I feel like most of the time it's just, like Instagram and email. Obviously, I'd give out my phone number, but I probably won't.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
But, yeah, Instagram is just, Patch Drums, just all one word. Yeah, I feel like that's, like, most of the time, that's kinda where everything lives for me is just, like, on that, and, yeah, you could just DM me on there and, Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the best thing. I feel like
Perfect.
that's pretty much it. Like TikTok and stuff is kind of just like secondary
Yeah,
for me, but yeah, most of the time it's just Instagram at Patch Drums.
amazing. We'll link all that stuff, and Patch is a massive resource of incredible information on character as well as drums as well. So definitely still follow his journey. So thanks, Patch, for being here, and thanks everybody for listening.
Off script, with Jab on the mic.